since that project began. So when you hear me call a shark by name, you might be thinking, he's just pulling these out of his hat. But I'll explain to you how we identify those sharks. And by giving those sharks a name, it helps people to kind of relate to them more and care about these sharks more. So this is Isla de Guadalupe. It's off the Pacific coast of Baja, about 150 miles southwest of Ensenada. From August to December, it's home to this population of great white sharks. And when the sharks aren't at Guadalupe, they're in an area called the White Shark Cafe, which is in between Hawaii and Guadalupe, kind of out in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. And we don't really know what they're doing out there, but they migrate to Guadalupe during the fall months. So why are they coming to Guadalupe? Food is the primary reason. So this is like the all-you-can-eat buffet for a great white shark. These are northern elephant seals. Guadalupe has northern elephant seals, Guadalupe fur seals, and California sea lions. So the older, bigger sharks will prey on these items. These are preferred food sources for the items. And you'll hear me say preferred food sources because if you're used to seeing Jaws and Sharknado, Deep Blue Sea, you might think sharks just eat anything in their path, and they're actually, white sharks are pretty picky. So preferred food sources, northern elephant seals, Guadalupe fur seals, California sea lions, and then the smaller sharks, if you can see, probably not real easy to see for you guys, but these are yellowfin tuna here in the background. That's what the smaller sharks will feed on, and the bigger sharks will also eat these, but the smaller sharks are feeding exclusively on fish. So when we think of great white sharks, this is often the type of image that we're presented with, these open jaws. And if you're exposed to just imagery like this and watching Jaws and Deep Blue Sea, Sharknado, you might think this is all a shark does. It just swims around, it's nom nom nom, no, nothing going on in their brain, they're just eating all the time. In reality, a white shark can go weeks without eating. So this isn't really a representation of how we would typically see them spending most of their time. It's a cool shot. It's oops, I didn't mean to hit that, but let's just go ahead. Can you fire up that video? So this is more how you would see a white shark in the wild typically. This is an 18-foot female named Tizimito. You can see she kind of looks over as she passes by and isn't really concerned that we're there. So I'll let her go ahead and finish her flyby. You'll see another shark up top there real quick. But that's more representative of what you might see at Guadalupe. So I told you I started diving there in 2006, and when I first got out there, it was kind of like, I want to get those open jaw shots because they're cool and dramatic and they show off the power of the shark. But after being there a few times, I'm like, if I'm sharing these images with people and trying to give a full representation of what we're seeing, this isn't really accurate of what we would see at Guadalupe. So I shot this image here in 2010, and when I was reviewing my images at the end of the day, I was like, there it is, that's white shark diving at Guadalupe. So these sharks there's a sense of grace and beauty to them, and when I reviewed this image, I was like, man, I finally got it. And I've been trying to get more images like this that'll show you, how we typically see the shark. So that open jaw shot I showed you at the beginning, we're not going to see any more of those. I'm going to show you some of what I consider a beautiful side of white sharks. Now, when you talk about white shark diving and going shark diving, people are like, oh, that guy's an adrenaline junkie, he's like somebody you would see in a Mountain Dew commercial. Yeah, extreme, go watch X Games. And you can talk to some of these other photographers, and most of them will tell you, we're generally at peace in the water. It's a relaxing thing. Yeah, you're excited because you're going to see one of your favorite animals, so there's that level of excitement, but it's not like a thrill ride. I feel like this image here kind of captures the beauty and serenity of the ocean, and there happens to be a white shark swimming through it. So when I'm showing you these types of images, my goal here is to show you images of white sharks that aren't scary, so that if you're just used to seeing Jaws and open mouth and nom 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 nom, that hopefully by the end of this you'll go, man, maybe those aren't a full representation of this animal. Does anybody here know what color a great white shark's eye is? That's right. So if you're a big Jaws fan, you grew up on Jaws like I did, you'll remember he tells you the shark's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. And Quint is a liar. And I have proof of it right here. So when a white shark comes close and there's good light, you see that blue iris. So, you know, the rest of their eye is black, but it's certainly not a lifeless eye. Doesn't look like a doll's eye. And the cool thing about that eye, and you'll hear other people the first time they dive with white sharks, it's one of the first things they say when they get out of the water. When a shark comes by this close, they can recognize your eyes, so they know you're looking at them, and they lock eyes with you, and you see that eye turning in their head as they go by to maintain eye contact. So when you see that, the whole thought of a lifeless eye and nothing going on back there, you know the wheels are turning. It's like, that guy's looking at me, and I better keep an eye on him, because I've heard about these humans, and I don't know. So here's another shot. This gives you an idea of how close some of these sharks will get. And you might wonder, why is the shark that close to your camera? You can see that eye looking down. If you notice these little dots around the shark's nose and under the eyes, those are ampullae of Lorenzini. They're electroreceptors, sensory organs. That allows the shark to detect electrical fields. So it gives them a sixth sense that we don't have. And then they have what's called a lateral line system that detects changes in pressure. So this helps them to detect prey, like if there's an injured fish, they're going to be able to hone in on that with this sense. So for me, that's like one of the cool things about sharks, because you try to wrap your head around a sense that we don't have, and it's like, oh, these guys got like a superpower. So a white shark is what's called a ram ventilator. They pull water through their mouth, push it through their gills. You can see the epithelium here, the gill filament. So as water's going through there, those gills are pulling oxygen out of the water and into the bloodstream. What that means as a ram ventilator, though, is white sharks got to be swimming all the time. They're moving forward. So people ask, does a white shark sleep? And then the traditional sense that we think of, you know, you're never going to see a white shark go. They're moving forward nonstop. They don't have a reverse gear. So if you're a motivational speaker, this is probably a good, you know, thing to relate to. Well, always moving forward. Very common question that I get. Is it like a PG-13 picture here? You know, how do you tell the difference between a male shark and a female shark? Well, it's pretty easy. If you got an angle like this around the pelvic fins, a male shark has external reproductive organs called claspers, and they're these long tube-like structures. They have two of them. That's you know, I get a tee-hee when I talk to school kids and talk about that. So that's a male. If you see claspers, you're dealing with a male. No claspers, it's a female. So females do tend to grow larger than males, but you can't just look at a big white shark and go, oh, that's female because she's big, because we do have some big males out at Guadalupe as well. Size range for white sharks, 4 feet to 20 feet. White sharks pups are, when they're born, are about 4 to 5 feet long. White sharks do give live birth, typically 2 to 12 pups. And when a white shark's born, it's on its own. There's no parental care. Mom's like, well, see ya. I carried you this long. You're on your own. We don't see pups at Guadalupe. That's not a nursery. The researchers think that the white sharks at Guadalupe go to Sea of Cortez to give birth. But we do see some small juveniles. So this is a 6-foot female named Jenny Walmsley. Again, I'll explain these names and how I know who this shark is. But the thing about a smaller or younger shark is they look like they've got these huge fins because their body size, their body to fin ratio is pretty small. So it's kind of like a puppy that's got these giant paws, and you're like, oh, no, that's going to be a big dog when it grows up. So in contrast to the small body size of this juvenile to her fins, this is Scarbird. This is the biggest shark I've seen at Guadalupe. She's built like a tank, you can probably tell from that. 18 foot long. Inevitably somebody's going to ask me, what about deep blue? Have you seen deep blue? Because I'm sure some of you guys know deep blue. I've never seen deep blue. She's believed to be the largest shark filmed anywhere, and the largest shark at Guadalupe, largest white shark. She's not really a regular at Guadalupe. She's been seen in 2013 and 1999. So when she was there in 2013, it was very late in the season. I had already left. I haven't seen her. This is the biggest shark that I've seen at Guadalupe. Trust me, she's a big shark. You feel small when Scarbird's around. One of the things you might notice, and I don't know how well you can see it in the audience, but there's this little, you might see something right in front of Scarbird, that's a pilot fish. And when you post images like this, people are like, swim away, little fish. That fish has absolutely nothing to worry about. So pilot fish and white sharks have what's called a symbiotic relationship, mutually beneficial. That pilotfish helps keep Scarborough clean. She'll eat parasites and pick up scraps when Scarborough's feeding. And in return for that, the pilotfish has the biggest bodyguard in the ocean. So that little pilotfish is like, man, nobody's gonna bother me. Another common question I get, how old is Scarborough? We don't know. Unfortunately, the only way to determine the age of a white shark is through necropsy right now. They do radiocarbon testing on the dead shark. We know from tests that have been done on dead sharks that white sharks can live over 70 years. The oldest one that's been tested is 73 years old. But as far as these living sharks, I have no idea. And it's not polite to ask a lady her age. So you've heard me, and I gotta get a drink of water because I'm...
Is that the legend?
Oh, it's drying up here a little bit. You've heard me mention these sharks by name and talk about how we've identified 260, or how the researchers have identified 260 sharks at Guadalupe, and you think, how can you tell these sharks apart? They all look the same to me. Where the gray meets the white on a white shark is called the counter shading pattern. That's unique to each individual white shark. So that's as unique as our fingerprint. We can look at that. Some of these sharks, you take a photo of it and you might not recognize them, but we've got a database, and I meant to bring the book up and it's sitting down there. I would have showed it to you. But we got a database, left side, right side of each shark. Once you've got a photo of the left side and right side of a shark, it can be added to the database. So if I were to take this picture and not know that this was Andrew Thomas, the 123rd shark identified at Guadalupe, I would get back on the boat at the end of the day, open that book up and start looking primarily around the gill region. Now you see like there's all these small dots and different ridges in the gills. Around the pelvic region, it's almost like an ink blot test kind of shape here, and there's two dots up there. So I could go in the book and say, okay, that's Gunther. He's got that weird shape there and those two dots. Another place where we look, and this really isn't the counter shading pattern, but a lot of sharks have white markings on the lower part of their caudal fin. So I can see this shape here. I don't see any claspers, sorry for looking there, but I know that's Persephone, the 210th shark identified at Guadalupe. So those are common things that we look for. Then you've got sharks that have just these anomalies that when you see this shark is named Freckles, and I don't have to go in the book and look at that counter shading pattern. You can see why he's named Freckles. He doesn't have that distinct line going there. He's just got the speckled pattern. His primary dorsal fin's got white discoloration on it, which is very rare for a white shark. And I talked about those white markings on the lower caudal fin. He's got them on lower and upper. So when you see Freckles, you're not getting back in the boat going, oh, I gotta see who this shark is. You know right away, that's Freckles. Permanent injuries. I was gonna say, who recognizes this shark? So this is Lucy, one of Guadalupe's rock stars. Permanent injuries are a great way to identify a shark. You know Lucy when she rolls in. This is another shark named Bella.
Oh,
She's
no,
also one of Guadalupe's veterans. Bella got bit around her gills, and people wonder, what would bite a white shark? Well, another white shark. So biting occurs during mating and for territorial reasons. So white sharks have what's called an array of agonistic behavior that they'll exhibit to kind of warn other sharks, hey, you're kind of getting in my space. And usually that's enough to let the other shark know, okay, I'm going to go on my way. But then there are some sharks that are, stubborn, bullheaded, and they get a little bite when they don't follow those cues. Bella got a bite here, and her second gill slit, it's like one of the most bizarre things I've seen at Guadalupe. It's got this disc-like shape to it. When I try and wrap my head around why it would heal like that, I have no idea. But I see that, I grew up in the 80s, it looks like a quarter going into a coin slot. So when Bella passes by, like all of a sudden I'm like, I feel like I want to play Pac-Man for some reason. But again, when you see this type of injury, you know it's Bella. So if you see Bella from the right side, you don't have to go look her up. She's a 17-foot female, big shark, distinct injury. That's kind of the background on the sharks. I'm going to go through some of my favorite sharks out here at Guadalupe. By far, my favorite shark on the planet This is Cal Ripfin Shredder. Depending on what boat you go to Guadalupe with, you might know him as Shredder, you might know him as Cal Ripfin. I'll probably call him Shredder just because I've been calling him that for over 10 years. You can see he's pretty photogenic. Again, when we talk about these things that we use to identify sharks, he's got permanent injury, that damaged dorsal fin, that rip fin. So the Cal Ripfin names obviously play on baseball player Cal Ripken. He's got white markings behind both of his eyes. That's not common for most white sharks. The unique white marking on the caudal fin. And then if you had to, you could go the counter shading pattern. But I can assure you, if you're in the water and this guy shows up and you have been in the water with him before, you know right away when he's coming in. He's super curious, super inquisitive, super photogenic. If you could somehow communicate with the white shark and say, hey, I need to get you to pose for a picture, that would be it right there. And people who dive with Cal Ripfin will tell you, this guy hams it up for the camera. And obviously, you know, we're talking about wild predatory animals here. These aren't our pets, and obviously he doesn't know he's getting posted on the internet and not posing for pictures, but sometimes it just feels that way. Yeah. He's always got this goofy grin. That's the great thing about sharks. You know, you'll hear photographers say that. You don't ever have to ask him to smile for the camera. This shot right here, I always get a chuckle when I look at it. So white sharks are very sneaky. They're ambush predators. They're good at sneaking up on their prey. They rely on stealth. So I'm in the water and I got my camera. I look this way, nothing there. Look this way, and you think you've looked 360 degrees, and you turn around, and there he was. And I was able to get the shot off, and I look at this, and I'm like, all right, you got me, Cal. Good one. And he seems pretty proud of it, too, with that little smirk. Again, he's super curious. When you're in the water with white sharks, a lot of these sharks are shy. They won't even come near you. We're in the water, like, waving them on, like, sharks like, no, I'm good. I've heard about you guys. You take pictures of me naked and post them on the internet. But Cal is not like that. He'll get right up in your face. Again, if you could ask a shark to pose for you, I feel like it would be something like this. So, my favorite shark, Cal Ripfin. If that's my favorite, silver medalist rolling in here. The big rock star, the Queen of Guadalupe for me, is Lucy. You can see this tail injury. Now, Lucy sustained that injury between 2004 and 2007. So when she rolled back in 2007, people were nervous. They're like, man, this is the primary means of propulsion for a white shark. And as I told you, they got to be swimming to breathe. They got to be able to turn that gear on to feed, because they do that ambush attack. And about 50% of her caudal fin, her tail, is just worthless. People are like, she's gonna starve. And there were boats that were throwing food to her because they were worried about her. That was in 2007. I think you can look at this picture shot in 2010 and go, nah, it doesn't look like she's starving. I think she's doing all right. If you've seen, you know, Duncan showed you that footage of the Remus cam, that underwater remote cam. There's a show called Jaws Strikes Back, and the sharks kept hitting that. Lucy was one of those sharks that was hitting that thing full on. So nobody's worried about Lucy eating anymore. Can you fire up that video? Just to show you, this is 2016. This is the last time we saw Lucy. We expect her back this year. She's over 16 feet now. When she swims towards you, she looks about the size of a car. So she's just a testament of the resiliency of these animals. It'd be like getting your legs chopped off and hitting. I can get some questions afterwards, because I'm kind of on a time limit here. But again, just very photogenic. If a shark was swimming by, you're like, hey, can I take your picture? Look at the camera real quick. You'd get a shot like that. So, you know, the cliche, I love Lucy. All of us who dive at Guadalupe love Lucy. So Lucy and Cal Ripfin are like the veterans of white sharks at Guadalupe. This is a newer guy named The Legend, and as you can see, he's pretty curious. He likes to stick his nose in the camera. The first time I dived with this guy, and I'm not familiar with him, I'm like pretty nervous, because he's like getting real close, and you don't know their behaviors that well. You kind of get to pick up on cues and stuff once you've been in the water with him a while. But this guy made me nervous when I first started diving with him, but now I love having him around. He doesn't have a permanent injury, so you might have to rely on the counter shading pattern we talked about. if he wasn't so curious and didn't have such a commanding personality. When he comes in, I recognize him pretty quickly. He's also got these two little finger-like protrusions in his countershading pattern right here behind the corner of his mouth. So when he comes in on the left side, you can identify him by that pretty easily. When I talk about taking pictures of sharks so that they don't appear scary, this guy's a great one to have around because he likes to come up and get right in the camera. And yeah, I titled this one, "Who Wants a Hug?" And disclaimer, nobody here try to hug a white shark and then have your lawyers contact me. I'm telling you right now, don't hug a white shark, but it makes for a great photo. Anybody know who this shark is? He's pretty infamous too.
Bite face?
That's Bite Face. Probably figure out how he got his name. So we talk about how there's some sharks that don't pick up on those cues, that the other sharks are like, hey, get out of my space. This is one of those sharks. He was first identified in 2001. He came in with this gaping bite wound, and well, you're Bite Face now. And the thing is, these bite marks will heal up within a year. So this is Bite Face in 2010, and that's, I mean, you can see the meat there. That's a pretty deep gouge. That's him in 2012, and that's completely healed, but you might notice, well, he's got another bite mark there. And then this is his right side in 2012. He's got a couple of bite marks. So he just doesn't learn. This is kind of an overview. He's got bite marks here, bite marks here, bite marks here. So in 2016, Bite Face rolls in, and he doesn't have any bite marks. And I'm like, finally, man, you finally learned, you know, keep your distance, hold back from the big ladies. Literally 2 minutes later, he's chasing right after Tsetse Meadle, an 18 meter, huh? That'd be a nice shark. An 18-foot female, which is a nice segue into Tsetse Meadle. So again, we talk about these permanent injuries. She's missing the upper part of her caudal fin. Again, an 18-foot shark. So when Tsetse Meadle rolls in, she's just got this presence about her, and you're not having to look her up in the database. I talked about those pilot fish before and the parasites. So you see these black patches on Tsetse Meadle. Looks like she's got a goatee. We were calling her the bearded lady that year. Sorry, Tsetse Meadle, it's not kind. But she was just covered in these parasites. So this is 2012. In 2016, she's got 6 pilot fish with her. 2 of them are really small, so you might only see 4. But she's free of those parasites. So it's, you know, when you're in the water and these sharks come by covered in parasites, you're just like, oh, you know, you want to pick them off, which we don't touch the sharks, but would be like a mammal having fleas or ticks. So it's great to see the pilot fish with them. So this is the last profile of one of our white sharks I'm going to show you, and this is a guy named Monkey. If you guys know Andy Casagrande from Shark Week, he named this guy Monkey. He's a fairly rambunctious younger shark, 13 foot long. He's been kind of the star of some of my most popular photos. We point out, you know, those preferred food sources. White sharks aren't just eating everything around. These fish here are called Pacific jack mackerel. They are the bane of a photographer's existence at Guadalupe. You'll have the perfect shot set up, have your camera, you're ready to go. All right, here's the shot, you get ready to click the shutter and whoop, you've got a blurry shot of a Pacific jack mackerel. So the white sharks don't eat these fish, so they get real close to them, and there are times that we kind of wish the white sharks did eat these fish because they ruin so many shots. You know, and I'm joking when I say that. These fish have just as much right to the ocean as the white shark, but when you're going to shoot white sharks, you don't want to shoot mackerel scad. Unless they clear the path for you like this and frame up Monkey real nice. Probably one of my most well-known shots. This is a shark full on in the vertical charge. There's a tuna at the top there that Monkey was going after. And I would just happen to catch this shot by luck, because when they're going in this mode, they're moving pretty fast. So white sharks can do a speed burst of up to 25 miles an hour. If you've seen Discovery Channel Air Jaws where the sharks are breaching out of the water, this is what you would see if you were underwater right before. So they're almost vertical to the surface. You can see the water line kind of goes like that. So he's not quite at 90 degrees, but pretty darn close, and just going full on. One of the things you might have noticed in these photos of Monkey, is there's a little fish attached to them down here. So this is a spearfish remora. Like the pilot fish, they've got that symbiotic relationship. They help keep the sharks free of parasites. In addition to having the biggest bodyguard in the ocean, these guys have the biggest chauffeur in the ocean as well. So remora have a modified dorsal fin, which acts as a suction cup. They can just attach themselves to the sharks and catch a free ride. We do see them free swimming with the sharks sometimes, but a lot of times they're just being lazy and catching a free ride. So those are just a few of my favorite sharks. I could go through white shark profiles for hours and you guys would be bored to tears, but those are some of my favorites. I want to end on this shot, and you might be looking at this going, it's not a very good shot, George, but it's significant to me. I hope you can recognize who this shark is. Do we know who this is? Just look at the dorsal fin, it's cow rip fin, shredder. I took this shot in 2011 at the end of the season, last day of diving, and I'm like, okay, get my last shot of cow for the season, see you next year. Cow was first identified in 2001, came back every year. He was like Bite Face, just one of the consistent visitors that's there every year, and he didn't come back after 2011. So that's the last time we saw him, that's the last time anybody's seen him. And I don't mean to end on a down note, but the point of me telling you that is to let you know, yeah, these are top predators. They're at the top of the food chain, but they're vulnerable and they're not invincible. So, you know, we need to do what we can to protect them and to protect the oceans. That's all I got for you guys. Got any questions? I'm more than happy to take them. I'm going to get this lady back here because she had the first question.